and I was like, this is it. Like, I'm going to head down to Florida, use this as my foot in the door and see where this takes me. And I have been here at Disney now almost 12 years since. So very grateful for that journey. And they're so excited that he failed. They're like, congratulations, you failed. You learned a way that didn't work. Rather than dwelling on how negative that feels. Here, I just went through a crazy last 8 months. This quite literally ruined our life, was my initial attitude. We lived in a hotel for over 100 days. It was like $45,000 in damages to the condo, but the path might not be the one you thought or you foresaw for yourself, but just kind of have faith that it'll lead you through, but also remain curious. You are still in control of your destiny one way or the other. It's that curiosity that'll lead you down those paths.
Welcome to Yes and Land, where we say yes to the reality of yesterday and today, and we say and to the possibility, growth, and imagination of tomorrow. All right, welcome to another episode of Yes and Land. Today, we are very excited for our guest today. In 2007, Walt Disney released Meet the Robinsons, which was just a lovely movie about keep moving forward. And our guest today has not only knows that line, but also lives it. She, in fact, is an employee of the Walt Disney Company. She works for Disney Cruise Lines as an analyst, which is pretty cool. And I will say, before we dive in, we do need to note that everything you hear from her today reflects her personal views and not those of the Walt Disney Company. That way you know she's legit. You know she actually works for Walt Disney Company. We have to say that. We have to say that.
Yes, thank you. I
Yeah, of
appreciate
course.
you including that.
So very excited today as well because Courtney went on a 7-year journey of doing a podcast, which I think is just so lovely and a wonderful podcast she did. What I believe was with a good friend. Now, I don't know if she was a good friend when you started, but certainly y'all became good friends over 7 years of podcasting 120 episodes.
Yes, one of my best friends. We met in college as teaching assistants for the same professor. Learned we had a shared love of Disney. Both of us did the Disney College program, and it was a few years after that we had gotten into podcasting, thought about what we want to do, and that is how our podcast Book of the Mouse Club was born, a little play on the idea of Book of the Month Club, where we would select a Disney-inspired read, whether it was something like Bob Weiss's Dream Chasing or a book that inspired a film. We did not do the one that inspired Meet the Robinsons, but things like Mary Poppins, Winnie the Pooh, over 100 episodes throughout that journey. We did bring that to a close last year, but the episodes exist as an archive on YouTube if anyone's interested. But yeah, that was a wonderful journey and a way to stay in touch with a friend long distance.
For sure. And what's interesting that you mentioned that is I didn't realize or remember that Meet the Robinsons was based on a book. I realized that when I was watching the movie with my kids yesterday.
The opening credits.
Yeah, and I'm like, wait a second, this was a book? And
I still haven't read it. I'm ashamed to admit.
I know. It sounds like we got our homework assignment, right? We know what we need to do. Which, as I'm watching it, really starts to make sense, though, because it does have, there's a very clever reveal at the end that you get the Easter eggs of throughout, but you don't realize. The first time I watched it, I had no idea, right? And then suddenly you're like, oh my goodness, that totally came together. So to me, it's like really, really compelling stories like that are very clever. Makes sense they come from a book, right? And that one did, which is kind of awesome.
So much of the Disney pantheon, I feel like, is inspired by literature, even the ones you don't expect.
Totally. There are so many. That's why when I first came across Courtney's podcast, I was like, oh, are there a lot of books? And then I started realizing there actually are a lot of books, both based for the stories that they do, but then also just so many books about Disney, about Walt Disney, about things related to Walt Disney, some amazing leaders. There's great leadership books out there that relate to Walt Disney. So, you know all those things better than I do. Probably an interesting journey to kind of take through, maybe things you wouldn't have read otherwise.
Yeah. Some surprises thrown in there for sure.
What one sticks out for you? What's a book that you read that maybe you never would have read otherwise, but was a real gem that you found?
I think getting more into the classic literature, things like Treasure Island or 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. In 2020, during COVID, we did like a themed summer. I think we called it the Summer Cinema Series and picked books, Pollyanna as well, that had inspired live action Disney films. And that's where we first brought in guest readers. So friends from other podcasts joined us to be another voice in the conversation. I'm like, I don't know that those were books I would have chosen to read otherwise, but I was like, oh, now I can say I've read them.
For sure. And one of the reasons why I came across the work that you had done on your podcast was because I heard you on another podcast.
Yes.
And you
Podcast Universe.
Yeah, right. And you were talking about Dream Chasing, which is the book by Bob Weiss, and we were blessed enough to have him on, and really just enjoyed the things that y'all had to say and the way you kind of took readers through a journey of what was in that book, but insights as well, bringing something more to the table than simply rehearsing what was in the book. And it was really a nice way for me, actually, and I told you this before, a nice way for me to prep actually before I actually interviewed Bob. And so I used your materials to help prepare me for talking to somebody who's a Disney legend, right?
Yeah, that was very kind of our friend Brett over at Notably Disney. We would often have him on our show as a guest reader or appear with him. So really fun journey. And I think that's the wonderful thing about this Disney podcasting community. Even if I finished my podcast, here you are inviting me to be part of yours. So I'm so grateful for this opportunity. Yeah. Thank you.
And it is one of the nice things, when you find a community. Yeah, I've talked a lot lately with my team here at my company, but also just talking with a variety of other people about that real need for a sense of belonging in a world that's becoming increasingly disconnected from human interaction because they're so tied to technology, tied to their phones. I think there's this real need for people to have belonging with a community. And honestly, as I started this podcast, as I've started diving deeper into what I already have loved about Disney, but starting to see this, I'm seeing this whole community that exists there. And you've probably felt that.
Oh, we felt that for sure in 2020. So we started the podcast in 2018 with the goal of doing at least one episode a month, which we kept all through those 7.5 years. But in 2020, that's why there's like 120 episodes, because I think we were doing one like every 2 weeks because everybody was just home and we needed that sense of community. And quite a few authors we got connected with. He's now passed on, Jim Korkis, a wealth of knowledge on Disney. Was like, oh, you can talk to DDA Gez and you can talk to Jeff Curdy, and just gave out their emails, and everybody was home, so they were happy to chat with us. So I was like, oh, we're really churning through them in that time frame.
Yeah, one of those blessings in disguise, right?
Yeah.
And it actually fits really well with our topic today, right? Of keep moving forward. Certainly, I mean, that's the theme of Meet the Robinsons.
Yeah.
And I also think, speaking of COVID, it was certainly a thing during COVID that people, if they could keep that in mind, was a very helpful thing, because it was really challenging, right? For everybody in many different ways, and the ways that people had to encounter and challenge it. And for you guys in your podcast, it sounded like it was just like, hey, keep moving forward. We're gonna do even more content. We're gonna do even more stuff. We're gonna talk to more people, which is amazing.
It's so applicable in so many ways.
Yeah. So one of the things that I like to do is kind of set the stage for the movie that we talk about. And so Meet the Robinsons is certainly a terrific Disney movie. I do think that maybe a little bit underappreciated from some folks. Disney lovers and purists certainly enjoy it and watch it, but maybe didn't get all the fanfare otherwise. And so if there's anybody out there who hasn't seen it, Courtney, would you set the stage for us on kind of what is the overarching story going on in Meet the Robinsons?
Of course. So Meet the Robinsons was released in 2007 by Walt Disney Animation Studios. Interestingly, it's one of their computer-generated animated films that was on the early end for them, but not affiliated with Pixar. So you have stuff like Chicken Little and things that deviated from Pixar, but moved away from that hand-drawn animation. And in this one, we are focused on 12-year-old Lewis. He is an orphan who is interested in inventing and has these dreams both of being adopted, going through that process, finding his own family after his mother had given him up. That was pivotal for him, but also becomes so engrossed in creating an invention that will allow him to see back into that time period. At the science fair, he meets Wilbur Robinson, a 13-year-old from the future, who kind of kidnaps him and revealed you're at the center of this plot. There's 2 missing timesheets, a creepy bowler hat guy running around, causing a lot of trouble. And when Lewis goes about, I believe, 30 years into the future, that's where he meets the Robinsons, a quirky, fun family that helps him feel like he's starting to belong somewhere. And it's that family's motto. And the patriarch of the family's big motto, keep moving forward, that is at the heart of that story. So Wilbur takes him 30 years into the future, where he quite literally meets the Robinsons, a quirky, large family filled with zany, fun action and habits. And it's the patriarch of that family whose motto is keep moving forward, which is at the heart of it. And it's with this family that Lewis starts to feel a sense of belonging. But there is more to come. I don't want to spoil some of the reveals, so I encourage anyone who hasn't watched it to go ahead and give it a watch on Disney Plus or wherever you may be able to find it.
Well, so here's what I have to say, Courtney. It sounds like I need to have you do like every recap of a movie. My goodness, that was absolutely perfect, because it does really give that idea of what's going on here, and it's a good show because of so many reasons. But we're going to dive into some of that stuff. We're going to dive into a little bit of the journey of kind of Lewis and what he's experiencing, and Goob. You know, what happens for Goob. We may have to do some reveals, though, I'll say.
I think so.
So for everybody out there, like, spoiler alert, okay? If you haven't,
pause.
Yes.
Go watch it.
Exactly.
Welcome back.
It's only like an hour and a half, right?
Yeah.
It's only like an hour and a half, and you can totally watch it. It's a quick watch. It's fun. It'll keep you laughing and enjoying during that hour and a half time, and then you can pop back on here. But
all right, now we're in spoiler territory.
That's right, because boy, Goob. I would not have guessed that Goob ended up happening. What happened to Goob?
Yeah.
Nor was Lewis and Cornelius. So,
yes.
Okay, so. Let me roll back real quick here, because some of the things that I want to find out from you a little bit are, you know, for you in your life, this idea of kind of keep moving forward and how you've seen it. So we mentioned that you're working for the Walt Disney Company, or the Disney Cruise Lines. So walk me through, like, actually, you also mentioned having done the college program. I want to hear a little bit about the college program and kind of what the lessons were that you learned from doing the college program. And then we kind of can start fast forwarding through your professional career.
Sure. I can back it up a little further. I went to the University of Maryland, College Park, where I majored in English. So totally made sense that I had a podcast about Disney books.
Yeah.
Long-time Disney fan. My family, you know, I recognize the privilege of this. We're members of the Disney Vacation Club. We were from Baltimore, Maryland, so very easy to get down to Florida, quick little Southwest flight. Got to visit annually, and I just really loved the theme parks, Disney history. Like in 6th grade, you got to do a research project of your choice, and I chose Walt Disney and really got to learn more about the man behind the name, behind the company. And so people would ask, what do you want to do with your degree in English? And I would say, well, you know, I'd love to work for Disney. I don't quite know what that might look like, but, you know, that's the end goal. And I was thinking maybe that's like 10 years down the line in my professional career. I was fortunate to be right near Washington, D.C. and do quite a few internships throughout my studies. And so when it came time to graduate, I felt prepared to enter the workforce, but I found the loophole that you can do the Disney College program after you graduate. As long as you apply the semester ahead of your graduation, you can show up at Disney the following semester.
Really?
If you're accepted. Yes. So
oh my goodness.
I'm just going to totally reveal my age here, but I was graduating in May of 2014. And so I applied for the fall 2014 Disney College program. And I was like, this is it. Like, I'm going to head down to Florida, use this as my foot in the door and see where this takes me. You know, I have the rest of my life to do a career thing. Let's go do something fun. And so I got to work at the iconic Space Mountain attraction in Magic Kingdom.
Oh, amazing.
Most importantly, it was air conditioned because I did start in August of 2014. And I have been here with Disney now almost 12 years since. So very grateful for that journey. Started at Space Mountain. Went into Disney also offers professional internships. So while the college program is more what you think of when you see people working within the theme parks, whether that be food and beverage, attractions, like me, really any type of role that is guest facing. The professional internships are more what you think of like a traditional office-based internship. So that is how I ended up in Walt Disney public affairs, spent some time there, and then had a complete career pivot to analytics. Really grateful for that. Was not where I expected when I said that's what I want to do with my degree and English. But I've found a passion for storytelling behind the numbers and instilling that meaning for it. So that's
I
kind
was
of my
going to ask you the
journey in a
connection there. I was going
nutshell.
to ask you
Yeah,
how that bridged the gap, right? How do we
it
get from
did.
English to numbers? And it's
They
because,
needed someone to put meaning behind those
yeah,
numbers, and here I am. I think having my background uniquely helps me with other partners who, might not also have that richer science statistics background. I'm like, if I can make it to make sense for me, I make it make sense for them. So that was a really long-winded answer, and I did not even tell you what I learned from my college program.
no, you're good. Let's circle back to it. So you're
But
in this college
yeah,
program, and I'm assuming that they put you through some kind of like initial training right out the gate. I would imagine it's probably like pretty intensive, where you're going to go through some kind of training before you ever get out in the park,
of
and it's
course.
probably
I'm
going
not sure
baseline.
how familiar you are with it. If you haven't read, shoot, do you mind if I Google it real quick
Yeah, yeah, for
to
sure.
get the title?
And one of the things that you said was interesting too is when you're putting story to numbers. I remember like
Yeah.
in school, I enjoyed math up until I had calculus, and it was horrible.
Yeah.
Um, but then once I had calculus, I was like, well, maybe I don't really like
I
math
don't
that
like
much.
that. I feel that.
And I was a business major, and then I took business statistics. And then that's where it connected for
It
me, right? Because
clicked.
it did, because now it's a story behind the numbers. It's explaining things that are happening in a business with the numbers, and suddenly
Yes.
the numbers are storytelling.
So I found the book that I would recommend, and
Okay.
it's Walt's Apprentice, Keeping the Disney Dream Alive by the late Dick Nunis. And he actually created Disney's Traditions program. Are you familiar with that at
I
all?
am not.
Okay, so that is the training that everyone at the company goes through on their first day. Really instills the 5 keys behind Disney's principles. So that's well documented. I feel like that's okay for me to
Yeah,
share.
yeah.
And so yeah, that's where you get your name tag in a very magical moment where Mickey Mouse comes in and brings the box of name tags. And it's really about instilling the idea that we create happiness at
Yeah.
Disney. And so yes, anyone from the highest level of the C-suite to the college program girl working Space Mountain goes through Traditions. And then, of course, you learn more about, I was in attractions, so different safety related things to that.
Mhm.
And then, of course, you are trained on your attraction. I would assume something like merchandise would go through, like cash handling, different things unique to their role. So you kind of start at the top of the funnel and whittle your way down to what is specific to your unique role creating happiness at Disney.
Why do you feel like that is such a vital part of what they do, that they make everybody go through that traditions program?
I think it really instills just, again, that idea we create happiness, that everyone contributes to that. I might not be in the parks anymore with the guests, making magic directly with them, but I still play a part in that backstage now as an analyst, like making sure the website is functional and telling the stories to, show here's maybe what recommendations I would make for optimizing the website to make that journey easier for the guests. So I think it just shows that everybody has a part to play within the show. I love all the language that Disney uses around like cast member, costume, show, on stage, backstage.
Yeah, for sure. I heard somebody talking not too long ago, and they were talking about the importance of each person understanding that, and then started referencing like when somebody first shows up to, and I know Disneyland better,
Yeah,
but first shows up to Disneyland, the first people they're actually going to encounter are security. It's
true.
actually, you got to go through security first. And I have definitely noticed, because I've been to Disneyland so many times, like even going through security, you can tell it's people who care. Like
Yeah.
there's a passion there. There's something behind it. They're not just like a TSA agent checking things. They are always so great about saying something to my kids, making them
Yeah.
feel excited to be there, because your experience starts there. And if that's lacking in that experience that's trying to
Gonna
be
set you
created,
off on
it
the
is. It's
wrong
exactly
foot.
right. It sets the stage. And so I love that at Disney, it appears to me that every step along the way really needs to be part of the overall. And so everybody really does contribute. It's not one of those things
Yeah.
where you're like, well, we want you to feel like you
Yes.
contribute, but you actually don't. No, people actually do matter. Everybody across the board matters because of what's trying to be created. Your kind of career journey and career
Yeah.
path. Certainly not everything has been roses and butterflies.
Mhm.
Certainly, I would imagine along the path there's been things that have been difficult that you had to overcome. What has that been like for you in kind of your professional career and your professional journey? When have you encountered something that was pretty tough? Maybe
Yeah, I
maybe
think
considered a failure.
a big thing for me was just coming into this career 180. I did listen to your Beauty and the Beast episode and the guest there talking about imposter syndrome, and that absolutely resonated with me. In applying for the role, I was now a senior analyst, but came in at an associate analyst level. The job description literally said degree required statistics, and remember, my degree is in English. But in reading through the description of like ability to instill meaning and effectively summarize things, which you saw with Meet the Robinsons, make recommendations. I'm like, I can do these things. So I applied. I often say, it helps to have someone get you through the door, but you still need to show yourself once you're in the room. So I did have somebody who knew someone in the department that through networking, put my resume on someone's desk to say, hey, I think you should talk to her. I still, of course, had to go through that interview process and show my worth in that English major side of things. But I did have a bit of imposter syndrome at the beginning, like, oh my gosh, they made me take a math test in the interview because I think they were just like, we got to make sure she can do math in front of us. And I'm like, okay, I had to remind myself, like, you did it, you made it, like you're here for a reason. You got to keep moving forward to
Yeah.
go through our thing here. But that was tough. And I think sometimes I still feel imposter syndrome. And then I remember I'm one of the more senior analysts. Like I've been in this department for over 8 years. And I'm like, oh, it's like that meme that's like, I need an adult. And then you're like, oh wait, I am the adult. Like other analysts are asking for advice. And I'm like, oh, I've been here a pretty long time. Like I
Yeah.
guess I'm the one to answer that. So I think imposter syndrome is something that a lot of people face. And that's definitely been a challenge in entering a field that maybe I wasn't necessarily felt that I was initially qualified for, but have certainly proved that I am. So I just got to remember that.
Yeah, absolutely you do. And also during your journey of doing your podcast for 7 years, was there ever a time where you weren't sure you guys were going to keep doing it, or you ran into some roadblocks and things that were difficult, and then you found a way to push through?
Yeah, I think, I'm really proud that we stuck to our mission of doing one each month. But I think sometimes in your journey, you have to think about when is it time to end. And for me, as I shared, I recently ended that last November. That was the end of it. But we had a plan in place. It was kind of, you start doing the work, and if you're not feeling as like fulfilled by it, I loved it. I think it shows in each episode, but it was a lot of preparation to we read our books. We did our homework every single month. We weren't just popping on to talk about the latest in Disney news or things like that. It just became a lot to balance with other things going on in each of our lives, and so we broached the subject, and that wasn't an easy decision to make, but it's something that I brought to my podcast partner. I think she was maybe a little surprised by it, but accepted that. So that's, important navigating relationship piece there. But I gave her the options and said, look, we have the next 3 episodes planned out. I think we were up to August at that point. I'm like, we could end it with this summer series. We always did a themed summer series. This was celebrating Disneyland's 70th and some books that were tied to that. I was like, or, we can end it towards the end of the year. I'm making this decision that I want to pull back, but how can I help you feel like you also have closure to this? And she said there were still some topics she wanted to cover. So we kept that plan in place, and then it was time to come to an end. So
Yeah.
that can be bittersweet and tough, but I think for me it was important to give our listeners closure, because there's podcasts that I've listened to and loved, and then all of a sudden they just stop and you're like, are they alive? Are they okay? So
You can go to a
I
different
made that.
platform.
Yeah, like is it behind a paywall now? Like I just wanted to make clear to our wonderful listener community, like, hey, we had just a final episode that was like, kind of like, thanks so much. Here's where you can still keep in touch with us. Like a nice little send off for them.
So going back then to Meet the Robinsons, one of the things that we see in there is some of the characters, especially experiencing some failures.
Yeah.
And so for you, what take us kind of through what Lewis is kind of experiencing with. He's an inventor. He's trying to invent things, and he's kind of suffering from some of these failures.
I think a moment that really stands out to me is when he's at dinner with the Robinsons and he's trying to fix something and he does fail. And they're so excited that he failed. They're like, congratulations, you failed. You learned a way that didn't work. Rather than dwelling on how negative that feels, they turned it into a positive. Like, okay, check off that one didn't work, but keep moving forward onto the next one. And so we see throughout a lot of Lewis's sketches and pieces there that led him on a journey of inventing and growing in that space.
Yeah, that was a real turning point, right? I mean, up to that point in time, initially he's trying to create the device that can kind of read your memories, right?
Mm-hmm.
And because it was sabotaged by the bowler hat, then it suddenly doesn't work, and he thinks things just can't work, and he's getting really frustrated with it. All his things seem to mess up, and I wrote down one of the quotes from that very scene that you mentioned. So I love that you took us there. And once that happens, and it's this, peanut butter and jelly machine, right? To put peanut butter
Yes.
and jelly on your sandwich, and they're celebrating it, just like you said. And Franny says, "I propose a toast to Lewis and his brilliant failure. May it lead to success in the future."
Yes.
And so, what do you think is the importance of maybe let's take it from the angle of somebody else helping to reframe it for you, right? Reframe what a failure is, and what's the role in maybe sometimes leaning on other people to help you kind of shake yourself out of something.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned somebody else reframing it for you. Sometimes we're so internalized in ourselves and our own thoughts that we don't look outward. I think another thing that pairs really well with that is the great shot of Goob, and he's like walking through the hallway and the kids are like, "Hey Goob, I like your binder, Goob," and then he's like, "They all hated me." And that's his internal perception, and he didn't have anyone to step in and reframe that for him. So that's why I always feel like if you're going through something, it's so important to talk to someone about it, whether it's your partner, a parent, a loved one, a friend. Just having that sounding board and someone to come in and give you another perspective on it can be vital.
Before we jump back in, can I ask you a quick favor? If you're enjoying the journey so far, will you like, rate, and subscribe to our show? It helps us reach more people like you. We can design and create and build the most wonderful place in the world, but it takes people to make the dream a reality. Well, I'm glad you pointed out that scene as well, because I think there's something as additional that we can learn from Goob walking down that aisle. He had such tunnel vision of negativity.
Yes.
From wallowing in the failure he had, right? So he has this failure of he's playing baseball. Yeah, I think it's a championship game. I think
he misses the winning catch because he fell asleep his roommate Lewis has been keeping him up late at night.
Exactly. And so then he gets mad at Lewis and he wallows what appears to be for decades, right? 3 decades that he's wallowing. But when he's still in this wallowing phase of super sad about it, he's such tunnel vision with wallowing in this failure that he can't even see the people who are actually trying to reach out. There's kids in the hallway who are trying to say hello.
Yeah.
And he can't see it. And I think sometimes we do get in our own way. If we could reframe, we'd actually realize, hey, there's actually people around me who actually do want to help. Maybe there's people who actually would want to be positive. But if I can't shake myself out, then I miss those opportunities. I miss those connections.
And sometimes we have to reframe for ourselves. One of my biggest pieces of advice to some of my colleagues is, you're stuck on an analysis, you're getting tunnel vision in the work that you're doing. Close the laptop and go for a walk. Come back to something with fresh eyes, a renewed perspective, and it does wonders. I am a big proponent of getting away from my desk for lunchtime. I like to go to the break room and read. Don't be chained to your desk. You need those mental breaks to come back and work more efficiently later.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I tell our employees here, I tell other people as well that, the idea of taking breaks, the idea of taking a lunch, is because it really does break things up, and it can help us to get outside of ourselves and then jump back in with those new eyes. And I think, sometimes what people need to do is like give themselves that grace. Like it
Yeah.
is okay to go take that break. Like it's normal. You sometimes need it. You've got to do it. You gotta acknowledge that that's okay. I'm not being lazy. I actually need this. My brain needs this so that I can come back better and look at things differently. And boy, Goop sure could have used that, and
Yeah.
unfortunately didn't get it when he was younger.
No.
Had to wait to 30 years in the future to get it, after he got manipulated by the actual bowler hat, which was
Yes.
interesting. Let me ask you about this quote. There's some quotes I have from some just people out there, thought leaders, other authors. And this is one from Brene Brown. And she says, vulnerability is not winning or losing. It's having the courage to show up and be seen when we have no control over the outcome.
Mm.
So for you, how does that play into this idea of, what the Robinsons really embrace, which is keep moving forward, right? When we have failures, keep moving forward.
Yeah, I feel like the entire family shows up for each other. I love just the montage of, I believe, is it Bud is kind of the older patriarch of the family,
Yeah.
taking Lewis through all the different rooms, and that's how we meet the Robinsons ourselves, and seeing just how they're not afraid to be vulnerable, to be chaotic. They're driving a train, racing through it, playing little games inside the potted plants. So embracing the weird, like stay weird, embrace that. There's a vulnerability to, kind of showing your passions and your interests sometimes, but that's a family that truly embraces that.
And that sometimes is really hard for people to do, right? That, like, people can get in their own heads. We get insecure about things that maybe we have that are a little bit different and unique and weird. I mean, it was interesting when I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do for a podcast,
Hmm.
because I knew that I wanted to do one. I felt like it was something that I was almost called to do. And but the thought of doing a Disney one was like, well, but I kind of hide the fact that I love Disney, right? Like I totally love it. I'll sing Disney songs in the car with my kids all the time. We
Yes.
play Name That Tune. We embrace it. We love it. We go to Disneyland all the time. But like in my professional career, like, oh, I certainly couldn't be some huge Disney fan. And I kind of had to get out of my own head and realize, like, no, this is actually something that, like, hey, I might be a little bit different or unique or weird, and that's okay. I'm going to embrace it because
And then
I
you're going to
do.
make connections with other
Yes,
people who love it.
that's exactly right. And those connections can be really meaningful, and somebody who appreciates the fact that that's the case, that I can be a little bit different and a little bit unique, and a little bit weird.
I had a connection just like that. I went to a rather large high school in Baltimore. Like my graduating class was like 575 people. And so when I went to the University of Maryland, it was about an hour away from home. And my now best friend, Betsy, not the one that I did the podcast with, that was Emily. They're both wonderful people. They were both my bridesmaids when I got married a few years ago. Betsy and I went to the same high school, but we joke that we weren't friends, not because of any animosity, but because we were just in different classes. Like I might have been in the accelerated English classes and she was in accelerated math. So we knew of each other, maybe swap numbers because we knew we were going to University of Maryland. And so I remember that first weekend, one of us texted the other like, hey, do you want to get lunch? Like, I don't really know anyone. And so we did that. And just the natural conversation of, oh, well, what did you do this summer comes up. And I said, oh, I went to Walt Disney World. And she said, oh, I did that too. And I was like, oh, well, my family has like this timeshare type thing. She's like, oh, the Disney Vacation Club. And I was like, yeah. And she said, yeah, my parents have that too. And that is what cemented our friendship. Come to find out, we have a shared sense of humor, many other things in common, but literally just that lunch, sharing what we did the summer prior to going into college, and it was go to Walt Disney World, was the foundation of our friendship. And I get back to her dorm and she has like a Tinkerbell lamp, and I'm like, yeah, we're going to be the best of friends. And
Absolutely.
later
Like, these are my
became
people. These are my people.
roommates for the other 3 years of
Yeah,
college.
amazing. And if we are unwilling to open ourselves up to a little bit of that
You
vulnerability,
missed that.
then we do miss those. We miss those opportunities. We miss those connections and those relationships, and those are really important. They're a
Oh,
really
yeah.
fulfilling part of our life. I mean, it sounds like your two bridesmaids are from
Yes.
these two wonderful people, right?
Because of Disney
Yeah,
friendships, basically. Yeah.
which is
And again,
amazing.
Emily, that I did the podcast with, we were both teaching assistants. And so, we're just in meetings, and it somehow comes up that we love Disney and the movies and the theme parks, and again, there you go. That's the foundation, I guess, now that I think about it, of both of my bridesmaids
Yeah,
and my
I love that.
friendships.
So at the very end of the movie, the flashes across the screen is a quote from Walt Disney, which of course is where this actual idea of keep moving forward comes from, which I guess comes as no surprise. If somebody didn't know before, then it probably makes sense that that was the case. And here's what the quote says. Around here, however, we don't look backwards for very long. We keep moving forward, opening up new doors and doing new things because we're curious, and curiosity keeps leading us down new paths. So for you, here's what I'm curious about is there's this idea, like we don't look backwards for very long, but that does obviously mean that we do look backwards, right, to some degree. So where for you is the balance of looking backwards and what's the value in that, and then knowing when to then move forward and let go of the past?
Yeah, it is a balance. I like that phrase, but I think I'm a big proponent of everything happens for a reason. I know that might be like a little like woo woo, but all of the paths that you take lead you to where you are today. And so you're going to learn from each of those journeys, whether it's a job that you're no longer in or a relationship that didn't work out, that still shapes who you are and who you've become as a person. So I think it's a matter of, I like that, we don't look back for long, like you said. It's not that we ignore it. We don't like just move on blindly. We think about those experiences, how they shape us, and use that to move forward down the path, then make the informed choices as we continue to keep moving forward.
And I think sometimes when we take those opportunities, like you mentioned, where, hey, we just got to step away for a second, those are opportunities for us to think sometimes through, okay, that didn't work out. It's not working. So maybe a little bit of failure. Okay, what can I do to learn now from that? Now I can move forward. What's the lesson? And now let's move forward.
Yeah.
And what role do you think curiosity plays in this for the ability to move forward?
I feel like it's so important. I can tie it to my role a bit as an analyst. You have to be curious. It's sometimes not enough just to be like, yes, this was the number that we saw this week in whatever key performance indicator or KPI that you're looking at. You kind of have to be a little bit of like Olaf, like, yeah, why? Yeah, why? And keep digging down that. So I guess when this became like my personal motto, I didn't know I was going to end up on this specific path, but now I'm seeing the path of how it led me to where I am. But yes, all that to say, curiosity is so important as a driver, because if we're just complacent about things, I don't feel like you're in as much shape of your destiny as you could be.
Well, that's actually a great tie-in. I love that you mentioned Olaf, because first off, I mean, who doesn't love Olaf?
I love him.
But it really is that idea of like, yeah, why to really do try to understand. I think sometimes we're quick to judgment. We're quick to think we understand what that number means or what that person meant, right? We get an email and we think we know what their intention was. And we put all this story behind what we think their intention was, and we don't get curious to say, okay, why? Why was that the thing they said? Why was that the recommendation they made? And when we get curious in those situations, we open up a new world of understanding. Now, maybe we don't come to the right, perfect resolution, I suppose. But if we understand somebody more, that understanding, I think, does bridge those gaps oftentimes, and really does help to build that connection. And decisions have to get made, and you have to do things in a business. But without that understanding, I think it's lacking. And I think people don't feel as valued and appreciated as much as if you had that understanding of where they're coming from and have that Olaf curiosity. So good. I just love that you said that.
You're welcome.
Here's another quote I want to run by you and get your take on. And it's similar to what we're talking about, but it's just one that I really love. It's from Carol Dweck. Carol Dweck is a college professor. She's got a doctorate, wrote a wonderful book called Mindset. And she's just amazing. And what she said was, becoming is better than being. The fixed mindset does not allow people the luxury of becoming. They have to already be. And in this book, she's really making the argument that fixed mindset is going to keep you in that negativity, keep you without being able to move forward. The growth mindset, on the other hand, is what opens up those possibilities. So can you give me your take on that quote?
Yeah, I hadn't heard that quote before, but I do feel like it pairs really well, because becoming is a continuous path. I think if you're just being, you're not moving on the path. You're just there. Maybe you sat down for a little bit. But becoming, to me, this is getting into the English major side, that's an active verb. That's moving. And so I absolutely see the connection there.
Yeah, and I think if we look at that through the lens of Goob, right, the
Yes.
movie actually does a really nice job
It
of
is
like,
not
he's
becoming.
sitting there in his bunk bed, right, when the orphanage is closed and he's
He
still
hasn't
there.
changed clothes in
Yeah,
30 years. Like, Goop's got to smell a little weird if you think about
totally.
it.
And he was just being. He literally during that time was just being. He wasn't becoming anything different. And it's obviously it's an extreme example. Like
Oh,
somebody's
yeah.
gonna actually sit there for 30 years, but it does such a nice job of
Visually.
highlighting that. Yeah. So that we can understand it better, right? What times in our lives are we actually Goob, sitting there in the same set of stinky clothes for entirely too long?
Versus, I think if we're okay to reveal now, we've given the spoiler warning. Lewis grows up to be Cornelius after he's adopted. He changes his name. And so as you go through the Robinsons' home, you see all of the failures, his different inventions, kind of like a haul of them. To me, that's becoming better at this. There's 2 time machines. You see the different prototypes as they go through. The little joke about the model is like, oh, it's pretty small. Like, what is this, a center for ants type of gag there. But yeah, that's kind of like Goofus and Gallant, but it's Goob and Cornelius.
Yeah, it's such a good depiction too, and we can see how that idea of keep moving forward served Cornelius and then brought together his family and how they all really embraced that in such a beautiful way, and were supportive of each other, which is just such a nice way for us to see that and understand more about ourselves by seeing them do that. So, okay. So let's do this. Let's take you to our this or that segment.
Okay.
And then we'll hit our rapid fire, and then we'll circle back at that point in time to kind of our closing reflection and our 3 actionable takeaways. So
Yeah.
first is our this or that. So buckle up, Courtney.
I'm
Okay.
ready.
Here we go. Time machine or Lewis's memory scanner?
Time machine. I love to travel in general, so now you're just opening up new possibilities for me.
Oh, yeah. So many, right? Okay. Carl the robot or Lefty the octopus butler?
I really liked Carl. And he had little mini Carls. Like, there's
totally.
a lot of potential there.
I mean, Carl was making them dinners and
Yeah.
stuff. And like, yeah, Carl was
I could
pretty
use a
handy.
Carl.
Yeah, no doubt. Peanut butter and jelly machine or flying car?
Flying car. I
That
hate
was an easy
driving.
one.
I'm gonna believe that it's also like autonomous driving thing. Get me around. PBJ,
Absolutely.
it's fine. It's I think I'd start to get a little tired of that after a
Oh,
while.
100%. Okay, now here's a harder one. Disney World or a Disney cruise?
That is very tough, but I am going to have to pick Disney Cruise. I think if you haven't done one, it is a great new way for you to experience the magic of Disney, the Disney level of service, but also to get to experience other places outside of the theme parks. I was fortunate enough to do one in the Mediterranean in summer 2024, and to just, you only had to unpack once in your stateroom, but you
Okay.
wake up and one day you're in Sicily and the next day you're in Santorini, and I'm like, wow, this is the way to do it.
Oh, yeah. I've only been on one, and it was nothing short of magical.
You could do a land and sea. I mean, they sail out of
Yeah.
Port Canaveral, so do a few days at Walt Disney World and then go on your cruise.
That's the best. That's the best way to do it, right? Mix
That's
both.
the combo, yes.
Okay, how about this one? A Disney book or a Disney movie?
Oh, that is so tough, but I will go to my roots and I will say Disney book. There's something to be said about uncovering new knowledge, hidden secrets behind things. I'm actually a big Disney nonfiction fan. We certainly covered fiction on the podcast, both Disney fiction like The Kingdom Keepers and the fictional stories that inspired movies, but I loved me a good like memoir, biography, making of type thing.
Oh, absolutely. Okay, how about this one? An ocean view room on the cruise or being out on the pool deck?
I'm gonna go with the pool deck. Look, I have stayed plenty of times in an inside room that didn't even have a view of the ocean. Like I'm traveling at an affordable price here. The room is just somewhere to sleep at night and shower, and so the rest of the ship is your world to explore.
Courtney, I totally agree. My wife and I
Yeah.
actually were talking about this just last week because when we went on a Disney cruise, the only one we went on, we did have an ocean view room.
Mhm.
but we were hardly ever there. But then even when we were during the day, it was like maybe we wanted to catch a little nap, and then it wasn't totally dark, and it was like, we
Yeah.
better have an interior
Oh
room.
my God, I have never slept better than in those interior rooms because I am so light sensitive and I'm a morning person. But I tell you, I've slept till like 10 in those indoor
Yeah.
rooms, and that is very late for me. I'm like a 6 to 7 a.m. wake up, and I was like, oh my God, what time is it? Where am I? It was so dark.
Yeah, that interior room can really help. So when we
It
go
did.
again, and we certainly will go on another Disney cruise,
Yeah.
we are definitely getting an interior room.
Yeah. Save yourself a little bit and put that money toward the fun fund and
Oh,
spend it on an
absolutely.
excursion or
Yeah, I think you're
something.
exactly right. Okay, here's the last this or that. Rope drop at a park, whichever park, or staying for the fireworks.
I'm a rope drop. Yeah, it's the morning person in me.
Yeah.
It shouldn't surprise you. My family was definitely, if you can make it from rope drop to fireworks, more power to you. But also, like, the crowds when the fireworks are going and stuff. Let's take advantage of everybody else sleeping in and get right on Space Mountain.
Yeah, I love me a good rope drop. I'm a big fan. Okay, here's our rapid fire. Okay, so buckle
Okay.
up. Favorite Disney movie?
Beauty and the Beast.
Favorite Disney song?
Out There from Hunchback.
Oh, okay, that's not one
Deeper
I've got
cut.
yet. That is a yes. Okay, I
It's a
like it.
great one.
Favorite Disney princess?
Belle.
Favorite Disney villain?
Hades.
Oh, he's so good.
He's so
good.
funny.
He's
I like
so funny.
that was fun for me as a kid.
I love Hades. Favorite Disney ship?
Oh, the Disney Treasure. If you're a theme park fan, if I can explain that one. That's the
Treasure.
one that has the Haunted Mansion parlor bar on it, a 20,000 Leagues inspired pub. So there were I'm like, this feels like niche things that I'm interested in as a Disney fan. It's absolutely stunning.
That one's going to be pretty high on my list. I was just talking with
Yeah.
somebody in my neighborhood, and they had just gone on the Treasure, and I was like, "Oh, this is sounding pretty great."
I also feel like the Treasure is kind of my baby because I have been with Disney for 12 years, but started on cruise line in 2022, and so that was the first ship that like I saw from we're giving you the name all the way up to her hitting the water. Like when I came in, the Wish was about to sail, so it was like, okay, like yeah, I can support that, but like I feel emotionally attached to the Treasure
Yeah.
because like that's the first one that I really like saw from the beginning.
It's connection, right? You have a
Yes,
connection to
exactly.
it. So yeah, that totally makes sense. Favorite Disney book?
I highly recommend the Bob Thomas Walt Disney biography. It was the authorized one by the family, but still doesn't shy away from different experiences that Walt and Lillian had. And so that's just one I told Emily, she did the college program the year behind me. I was like, read this before you go on your college program. It just puts you in the right mindset. So I think it's Walt Disney, an American Original is probably the subtitle.
Well, I mean, I'll tell you what, I'm going to download that into my Audible as soon as we get done
Nice.
recording here, because I'm definitely going to read that one.
Yes, Walt Disney, an American Original.
Okay. How about favorite Disney author?
I'm going to give it to Jim Corcus just because he had such a prolific Vault of Walt series, trivia master. If you happen to read his Disney Cruise Line book about, the history of the cruise line and fun little things there, I do get a shout out under my maiden name, Courtney Guth, in the foreword because I helped him with some trivia.
Amazing. That's fantastic. Well, I'm definitely going to pull that out. Okay, and here's the last rapid fire. Which character from Meet the Robinsons do you relate to most?
Definitely not Goob. I think Lewis is at the heart of it, and so just following his journey and that spirit of optimism that he has. But he's a realist too. Like we get to see him, frustrated by the interview process and not being adopted. I like that he's well rounded in that regard.
Yeah, he's fantastic. Yeah, I love that. Well, let's take us to kind of our closing reflection, and then let's get your 3 actionable takeaways. So, can you give us your reflections overall on this idea of keep moving forward and what that kind of means from this wonderful gem of a show, Meet the Robinsons?
Yeah, this movie is the film that introduced me to that quote. So even though I did that project on Walt Disney years before in 6th grade and learned about Walt the man, it was that moment that you described in the credits where that quote flashes on the screen, I get like a little verklempt when I see it happen. I get choked up thinking back to that. I was like 14 or 15 years old seeing that movie. You know, you're at a pivotal time period coming into high school, all of that. And that quote just stuck with me so much so that when I was applying to the University of Maryland, one of the required of 3, I'm sure, essays was, what is your personal philosophy? And I chose keep moving forward. It was also my senior quote in the yearbook. So I really internalized that quote in my freshman year. And then by the time I graduated, I was thinking about this watching the movie, because it does have a lot to do with fate and the curiosity and the paths that we take and where that leads us. I'm like, Maryland is where I met my 2 best friends. It's where I met my now husband. I'm like, man, if I hadn't written that essay, like, I might not have gotten in there. I might have been on a completely different path. So again, going back to that everything for a reason piece as well.
Brilliant. Yeah, I love it. It's, you know, keep moving forward can be such a great mantra to have. And we all go through struggles at times. We all go through trials and difficult seasons in life. And it's not always easy for us to keep moving forward.
You want to know what's crazy?
Yes.
Okay, I'm assuming like you still have Facebook, and you know how Facebook will have your Facebook memories?
Yeah.
Okay, today, 13 years ago, I posted like an infographic of keep moving forward, the Walt Disney quote with like the castle behind it. So I don't remember what I was going through at that moment 13 years ago, but like, wow. How cool was that? I saw that this morning and I was like, oh my gosh, we're going to be talking about this tonight.
The perfect thing.
How beautiful.
That really is. And it's so nice to have things like that sometimes pop up, because it reminds us like, hey, you know, there are things in life that are inspiring and things happen for a reason. And that's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
So if you could provide to our listeners 3 actionable takeaways of something that they could put in effect into their lives starting today, what would those 3 things be?
Yeah, I think one thing that we didn't touch on too deeply, though, is the process that Lewis goes through going through adoption. And I really saw parallels to that of going through job interviews, because he's kind of being interviewed by these parents. And he says he's, you know, faced 124 and counting, and Mildred, the orphanage lady, is like, I'm sure that's an over-exaggeration. He's like, no, this is the tally. So I feel like that's probably something that would resonate with those maybe in search of a job right now or going through that you're going to face rejection in life. Maybe not everything on the path you think you're supposed to be on is going to pan out that way, but you will find the place where you're meant to be, your family, so to speak.
Yeah.
Just like Lewis finds the Robinsons.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then the other one that I really thought about, again, everything for a reason, going back to the crux of him doing the memory scanner is he wants to see his mom in that moment. Like, he feels like if he could go back, if he could change that, she's the one who wants him. Like, she just couldn't maybe take care of him at that time. He wants to feel wanted, and he wants to go back to that moment and change it. So when he finds out about the time machine, it becomes a deal between him and Wilbur Robinson. Like, you're going to take me back to see my mom. And we have this moment where she's quite literally in front of him, and he could reach out and touch her and essentially change his fate if he were to intervene. And this is everything that he's thought that he wanted, and then he doesn't do it. And I think that's because he realizes, like, if I do this, it's gonna change what I know my future to be. We don't have, unfortunately, the ability to know our future, but I think it gives us peace that maybe everything that happens for us does happen for a reason and leads you down that path.
Yeah, because he gets to see this beautiful family that gets created because he went down this path of not knowing who his mom was, and gets to embrace that.
Yeah, just taking comfort in that when you're going through a tough time. If I can get a little personal here, I just went through a crazy last 8 months. We previously lived in a condo, and the tenant above, we owned the condo and we're living there. Someone above us was renting and did unauthorized construction and completely flooded our condo. And I was like, this quite literally ruined our life, was my initial attitude. We lived in a hotel for over 100 days. It was like $45,000 in damages to the condo, but like, we got new floors, we got new kitchen, we got like the walls that had a lot of posters and stuff patched, and they packed up all of our stuff, and we are collectors. And it was like, wait a second, like, this is awful. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, but that was the impetus for us to now be in a single family home that we closed on a month and a half ago, because it was like, okay, this is what we've been dealt. Yeah. This is terrible, but let's keep moving forward. I mean, and maybe everything for a reason. I don't want to belittle the drama that experience was having to deal with, but because of that, it made us rethink, like, well, do we want to still live here? Moving to a single family home was something that we had talked about, my husband and I, for a while, but it was like, oh, well, you know, like, we like our mortgage rate, those adulting type things. It's like, oh, we have all this stuff, but like, okay, somebody else paid to have the insurance, you know, pack all that up for us, and now they've upgraded the kitchen cabinets and things. Like, okay, maybe this is the push that we needed to sell, to start over. We don't want to be in this home with this traumatizing memory and living below this person who caused all this for us. And so that, I think, within, you know, the last year has been a huge piece of reflection for me on paths and what gets us to maybe a journey we didn't expect, but are ultimately grateful for the outcome.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think one of the things you pointed out is, I think, right, it doesn't mean that we have to say, like, oh, it was an easy experience. No, we can acknowledge, like, that was hard, and we do have hard things, and we can also move forward past them, and we can also find the good in things, even though something was difficult.
Yeah. And so, yeah, at the end of it, really the third takeaway is just keep moving forward with it. The path might not be the one you thought or you foresaw for yourself, but just kind of have faith that it'll lead you through, but also remain curious. You are still in control of your destiny one way or the other. It's that curiosity that'll lead you down those paths.
Absolutely wonderful. Oh, those are some absolutely terrific takeaways that I think can really bring some more peace and happiness for people if they'll try to put those in action into their lives, keep moving forward, do so with curiosity. Courtney, it's been a pleasure visiting with you today.
It has been a treat for me as well. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, appreciate the knowledge that you bring, appreciate the perspective, appreciate getting to watch Meet the Robinsons. It's been a while since I watched it, and I love
it. It's been a while for me too.
It's always good to circle back to some of these, especially when you have an impact, like it did for you, that quote for you, and you get to circle back to these things, and it's a reminder of, like, where you've come from and what exciting things are ahead as well. So appreciate you being on our podcast, Yes and Land, and hope the best for you and everything you've got in your life and in your journey with the Walt Disney Company.
Thank you, and I look forward to seeing how you keep moving forward with the rest of your episodes.
As you leave this conversation, remember that yes, the past can hurt, and you can either run from it or you can learn from it. So here's to learning and finding joy in the journey. See you real soon.